Hello, hello. I'm Geraldine Wilkins, the Living Water Quilter. Welcome to Quilt Conversations live here on Amazon. I'm so glad to be with you, and for those of you who are watching from YouTube, welcome. Hello, Cassie. How are you? Surprise, surprise. Yes, I'm going live both on Amazon and on YouTube. So if you are on YouTube, you're part of my audience on YouTube, come on over to Amazon or stay where you are. Either way, we're going to have some fun talking about rulers, specifically rulers for quilting, for patchwork. Now, if you are in my audience on YouTube, you know that when we go live on Fridays, we talk about machine quilting. On Wednesdays, it's all about how did she make those quilt projects? What tools did she use to cut the fabric, to prep the fabric, to stitch it together, machines, cutting instruments, and patchwork rulers. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So hello, Wilda. I'm so glad you're here. Fantastic. So we are going to talk about a number of rulers. And so I want to get started right away. And the first one, if you're on Amazon, I just highlighted that ruler and it's called Twist and Stitch. It's by June Taylor. It makes a fun pattern. It makes this quilt pattern. Isn't that fun? It's twisting. It's windmills. And so this template helps us to make the right cuts that we need to make those windmills. And I'm going to show you how to do it. Let's take a look. All right, so this is our inspiration. And we're going to go about how we make these windmill blocks. So that's one there. Let me show you first some of the basics of the tool. And I'm going to go to my overhead camera. Let's do that. Okay, so there's the overhead camera, and here is a block that I started. Now, of course, the ruler comes with instructions. Here are the instructions. It shows you how to piece and what size to cut your fabric. And you can do it with and without a border. Now, that small quilt that I just showed you was with a border. This here is without a border. Hello, Sally. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And so this is this block right here without a border. And basically, you just put together a 4-patch. Put together a 4-patch. I used 5-inch squares, which is, our charm packs. Then we just take our twist and stitch ruler and we place it on the seam intersection, horizontal and vertical. And you have the words twist and stitch at the top. You can read it correctly. That's your first cut. And I use a 45 millimeter rotary cutter. And so I just cut and cut. So you do 2 cuts in one direction. Then you rotate the ruler, doing the same thing again, putting the vertical and horizontal line in the seam. Then you make the next 2 cuts. Just like that. Then you get this quilt block. This is your waist, and that's your twist and stitch quilt block. And you just make as many of these as you like, and then you put them back together to make a quilt. Very easy, right? Let's take a look. Let me try one with another 4-patch. Now, how many of you have scrap fabric or charm packs laying around? You would just repeat. I'm just going to line up again the horizontal line and the vertical right along the seam, and always have the twist and stitch at the top where you can read it. That way you know it's the right orientation. Tell me how I know. If you don't do that, you're going to cut the wrong way. Follow the instructions in that come with the ruler. That is important. So now I'm going to cut. These are my 2 lines. And there's little eyelets here so that you can easily put the rotary cutter inside and cut. Cut. And so that was this one here, 6.5. And then I go on the opposite side, making sure it's the right one, 6.5. Now I'm going to turn the ruler again, lining up the vertical and horizontal line, and the 6.5. Again, look for the 6.5. This is the 6.5 right here. And then 6.5. Make sure that's correct. Okay, 6.5. There's my block. This is the waist. Now I would take my 2 scrappy blocks and I can put them together. There are no seams to match, right? But you can see the start of a pinwheel because I use similar fabric in these 2 4 patches. It's just that easy. What do you think about that ruler? Isn't it amazing? It's called Twist and Stitch. Now let me show you. Are you cold there in South Dakota, Sally? I see that you got a boo on your comment there. Is it very cold? I bet it is. I'm gonna put up a little comment. I guess the comments don't come up. That's interesting. Okay, I'm gonna put that off. You like that? So that was the twist and stitch without a border. Let me show you the process first for a border. I'm going to go to our example, and that's the one I just showed you on camera, right? But it has a red border all the way around the windmills. With that, you want to start off, and again, it's in the instructions on how to get the border. Let me show you. Very cold. Very cold. So this is how this quilt started. It started with 5-inch squares and borders. You piece all of that together, and then you take out your ruler. And remember, the orientation is important. Always have the stitch, twist and stitch at the top, and you're able to read it correctly. It's not backwards. Then you know you're starting off your cuts right. And you just follow the instructions and take your time. Once you cut it, then you get this. This is all the cuts now re-laid out and ready for piecing. What do you think? Isn't that fun? That is how you do it. That's how you get this, and then you quilt it. I quilted mine with a lot of straight lines. Hello, Kathy. How are you? I'm so glad you like it. Yes, let me get that one down here. Again, these aren't very large. I started off with a relatively small one to practice with. You want to try something small. You can do a 4-patch with a border to test the technique. Here's another option. Same thing with a nice border. That's the Twist and Stitch by June Taylor. Fun ruler. Sometimes we just need just a little bit something to challenge us in our sewing and quilting, don't you think? I like this ruler. So that's the first one for tonight. We're going to move on to another ruler. But before I do, did you notice that I was using a mat And I could have rotated the mat, but I didn't. Let me go to the overhead camera again. So this is a rotating mat that I love. Do you use a rotating mat? When I was using the ruler, we want to be able to cut safely. So having a rotating mat so you don't have to shift the patchwork, then you can cut always in the same direction. That way you don't have to shift the fabric and you can continue to cut. I just highlighted that in the carousel for those of you who are on Amazon. It is a 12-inch by 12-inch rotating mat, and it comes in handy. Underneath it is a larger cutting mat, and these are self-healing mats. Another Fiskars mat, self-healing. It's a 18 by 24-inch cutting mat. And that comes in handy for larger projects and when you're at a cutting table. Let me go to that. What kind of cutting mats do you ladies like? Self-healing are the best. For those of you on Amazon, I just highlighted the larger mat, and this mat is two-sided. It actually has numbers on two sides. This side is green and the other side is yellow. Let's see. So what is next for us? I think I want to talk a little bit more about rotary cutters and safety and using the right size for the job, okay? But I'm going to show you two rotary cutters tonight. This is a 45 millimeter. And this is kind of a middle of the road. It's really good for most things. But sometimes that blade needs to be sharpened or it needs to be replaced. And so I want to share with you that you can sharpen it. You can sharpen it with this sharpening tool. Let me go to, I guess I'll use the overhead camera. This is a sharpening tool. This is 1/2. It has two handles on it. And it has this ring. And this ring has two sides. This side is coarse so that you can get a sharp blade very quickly. And then this is a smoother side. So there are two sides in which you can sharpen your blades. I want to show you that in a video. And that is the dual rotary blade sharpener. Let me show you how this works. It's called a dual rotary blade. So just take a look at that. Twist and sharpen. Restore a razor sharp edge to your rotary cutting blades. They have instructions on the inside, step by step, how to put the blade in between the handles, and there's the two different sides, coarse side and a smooth side. So this fits right inside. Can you see the blade in there? Unscrew this. It screws very easily. And there's the blade. And then once the blade is in on top, it rests on the inside. You see how it rests right inside? Then I can just take the other handle and screw that on top. And once it's tightened, it's ready to be sharpened. And then you just twist. Twist. And you sharpen it. So, it's not hard, is it, to sharpen your own blade, is it? It's very easy. It's a two-piece sharpening system. And again, we have instructions on the inside. It tells you how to switch out the blade. Hi, Glory. So glad you're here. Oh, I'm so glad my YouTube family is joining us. This is fabulous, ladies. And then it has some essential sharpening tips on the inside. So sharpen your own rotary blades. You can do it with this tool. Okay. But you may think, well, I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to just replace the blades. And eventually we will have to replace the blade. And we can also do that. For my Amazon audience, it's there for you to see. You can see in the carousel the replacement blades. And that is, let's see, a set of 5. A set of 5 rotary blade. Let me go overhead. You can easily get a set of 5 to replace the blades in this rotary cutter. And I have some still in a new pack that is almost finished. I think I have one left in this. But when I am replacing a blade, I save the container to put old blades in. I like to save it so that I can safely dispose of the blades and no one gets injured. So these are old blades, and this would be the new ones. And you're probably wondering, well, how can I replace the blade? How does that work? And actually, it's quite easy, and I want to show you how you can do that. Let's see. Here we go. Rotary cutter. You can get replacement blades. They come in this nice little case. It's not hard to do. It's very easy to replace the blade. There's a little screw here in the back that you unscrew when you replace a blade. Lift up the whole thing together, and there's the blade exposed. I can take that center part and not even have to touch the blade. And now it's removed. And now I can take a new blade Wonderful, Glory. I'm so glad that you're learning some things. Fabulous. This is good news. Awesome. It's now sitting in there. And hello to you ladies who are on Amazon. For some reason, the chat isn't working, but I'm talking with another group of ladies that join me live each week, and they're on YouTube. We're streaming both to YouTube and to Amazon today. So that's the 45. Now, for those of you who are on YouTube, any of the tools that you see here, when you come to Amazon Live, there's a carousel. You keep hearing me say carousel. There's a carousel. Then it can be safely recycled or thrown away. There's a carousel underneath the video on Amazon Live with each of the products that I'm talking about, each of the tools, so that if you want to put it on your favorite list, put it in your cart for shopping for later, you can do that very easily. You don't have to hunt for it. We've made it very easy for you to find these again. Okay, so we have talked about these rotary cutters, and it's important to have a sharp blade. So as I'm demonstrating today, I have a sharp blade. A dull blade is actually dangerous. We don't want to do that. So, and for those of you looking on Amazon, I just highlighted the rotary cutter that I have. This is the 45 millimeter rotary cutter. I've had this one for years. It's a good product. Okay. Now, let's go to some more rulers. More rulers. Now that we've got our tools ready for cutting, we're going to look at something called Tri-Rec. Have you heard of the Tri-Rec tool? Tri-Rec. Tri-Rec is a template set that has two templates, two triangles. This one is one triangle, that's a large, and then this smaller one that creates the other two sides that we need to make a quilt block. Let me show you in the overhead camera. All right, so here is the Tri-Rec. It's two parts. Here's the first part, the Tri-Rec. And here's the second. Try Rec Tools. Oh, you have it, but you've never used it. Okay, well, this is fantastic for making star blocks and for making windmill type blocks. And I'm going to show you the windmill. It's really, really fun. So we need to make a triangle, and we need two smaller triangles that are elongated, that go on either side. And you can make this unit for patchwork in several sizes: 1 inch, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you get 6 different sizes with this ruler. For you, I made a sample with 3-inch for a 3-inch block. So the unfinished is 3.5. So here are my units. This was made from a 3.5-inch strip. It's all strip cutting. And so there is how I cut this unit. Then we have the mirror. We have to have a mirror of the side triangles. One on this side and one on this side. And that was cut with this ruler. Again, with a 3.5-inch strip. That measurement is 3.5. When we cut these triangles, we will cut them with the fabrics either right sides together or wrong sides together. Right now, this is wrong sides together, right? And then that's how I cut it. Let me show you how that works. Let's get a strip of fabric. So this is for my large triangle. This is a 3.5-inch strip. Now this is where this rotating mat comes in handy, because I am sitting at a different angle and I need to be able to rotate this so that it's facing me for safety reasons. Now I can just cut, and there's my first triangle for my first unit. Then, and there's very little fabric waste. Then you just rotate the ruler and you line it up for the next cut. That's how fast you make the triangles for the bigger triangle units. Very easy. For the smaller triangle units, we need the mirror image. So I'm going to fold this in half with wrong sides together. Wrong sides together. I'm going to take my favorite quick trim ruler that I use for almost all of my patchwork. This is a 3.5 by 12.5 ruler, so that I can have a straight edge to start with. Throw that away. Now I can make the side triangles. Okay. Now, what's important about the side triangles is that there's another little piece to cut here at the tip. So I'm going to rotate the mat so I can get to that section to cut. That's going to help us in our piecing. This is critical that you cut this. It's an itty bitty piece. Right there. Okay, maybe I can show that to you. Hello, Elaine. Can you see that? Hopefully you can see that little piece that I cut there at the tip. Can you see that? Little piece that I cut. That's what we're going to line up so that we can get the perfect points we need. And if our 1/4 inch seam is accurate, it's going to piece correctly. So what we will do is that we'll take our large triangle, and since we cut mirror image of the smaller triangles, we have the right two pieces. Now, it's easy to get confused with piecing this. You might decide, well, does this go here and does this go here? That doesn't work, does it? Nor does this work. It doesn't make a square. So you know that you're putting the right pieces in the right order when you see a square. Okay? Now you're going to sew one on top of the other. And this is where we're lining up that bottom edge, that edge that we cut off, that little tip, that is flush with the bottom of this bottom triangle. I'm going to try and hold this up so that you can see it. Okay. Can you see that this is going to be flush right down here? As long as this is lined up and you stitch 1/4 inch, it's going to be accurate. Oh, good, you see it, great. Once you do that, then you get this. Then you put on the second one. You do exactly the same thing. You're going to lay this down so that that bottom section is lining up right with the bottom of the large triangle. When you stitch an accurate 1/4 inch, you're going to have the right seam allowance so that you keep your points. Okay? Then you're going to make as many as you need of these tri-recs. This is the unit that this template makes. Then you can put them together to do a pinwheel design. Have you ever tried this kind of design before? You just rotate the blocks and you get that fun pinwheel design. Isn't that fun? I love that design. That's a fun pinwheel. Let me rotate it a little bit so that you can see the pinwheel moving. Or you can use these for star points. And so you would put this here, this like that, and this one here, and then you would fill these in with your background color or fabric, whatever fabric you want, and these would be your star points. Again, and then these would all be 3.5 inches because my strips were 3.5. Whatever size that you make with this ruler, 1.5 to 6.5, you would make all of your squares exactly the same size. I think this is such a fun way to make pinwheels. It's just a fun block. And it's fast and accurate as long as you follow the instructions, right? That's the big thing. But I always test. I always test first. Practice on scrap fabric. Check your 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make sure everything is working well. You have a good sharp rotary blade. So what did you ladies think of that? Do you have any questions about this template? Any questions? I love the tri-recs. It's a tri-tool, tri-recs. Now guess what? With this part of the template set, it's 2 pieces, you can make rectangles, 2-sided rectangles. Let me see if I can use it as an example. Let me go back to the overhead camera. So this is, remember, the small triangle. Then you'll take this one and you would stitch those together. And now you have another completely new block unit to work with. half square rectangles. Instead of triangles, a half square rectangle. Isn't that fun? I like templates that give us multiple options. All right. So that was a good template, I think, because how many quilt patterns have you seen with stars that call us to make star blocks and use the Tri-Rex template? I think, ladies, you've seen it before. Let me know in the chat if you've seen these type of stars before, these units before. That's the other thing I like about using patchwork templates for popular quilt blocks and popular patchwork units, especially when they help us cut the fabric accurately and help us piece it accurately with those nice little cutting parts of the template, like that little tip we cut off and lined up at the bottom, the base of the large triangle. That all helps us in our piecing. Okay. Awesome, Elaine. You're going to try it. Wonderful. Okay, so what is next for us? Next in the carousel, for those watching on Amazon Live, welcome. I'm Geraldine Wilkins, the Living Water Quilter, and we're talking about patchwork templates, cutting tools, things that we can use to help us make quilt blocks fast and easy and accurately. And so the next one is another one that helps us make fun and fast quilting units. And it's called a tube ruler. It's called the strip tube ruler. The strip tube ruler. Yes, Wilda likes this ruler. Oh, and you like the stars that the Tri-Rex makes. Great. They are different than the usual shapes that you see so often. Okay. I don't know. I've seen a lot of ones that make and use the Tri-Rex, but who knows? Every star pattern is just a little bit different, but a lot of them use different types of points. So this is a strip tube ruler, and it's by Cozy Quilt Designs, and they use tube stripping to make patchwork units, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It comes with instructions. You get this in the package. You just unfold it and the instructions are on the inside. And so how do you start with this? You start by making a tube. And how do you make a tube? They give you instructions, and a good way to start is using some popular strip sizes, and that's 2.5-inch strips or a jelly roll. Some might say call it a jelly roll, or you can cut your own. And so that's what I did here. I took some 2.5-inch strips and I sewed them together. 2 strips. Once you sew those together, then you're going to sew them to a 4.5-inch strip on either side. So I have a 4.5-inch strip sewn to 2 2.5-inch strips. Let's go to the overhead camera. So this is the strip tube ruler, and it has several lines and measurements on it. This is the instructions that came with it. This was on top when I opened the packet. Then once you take off the wrapping, you get instructions when you unfold it. And it makes some fun blocks. Let me show you the blocks that this tube makes. It makes these 2 and these 2 blocks. Fast and easy with this ruler. How is that done? Again, we're using 2 strips of fabric. A light and dark is what I chose, pink and blue. and they are each 2.5 inches. Again, the instructions will tell you what size. Then this strip in the back is 4.5 inches, because when we sew these two together, we get 4.5 inches with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now that you have this tube, this is why it's called a tube ruler, because essentially it's a tube, because it's sewn together. And these are sewn right sides together. Don't make that mistake and sew them with the wrong combination. So this is the wrong side, and then this is the wrong side. You get 2 blocks when you do this, and you follow the instructions. It tells you where to place the ruler, and you place the ruler on the stitching. You line that up, and for this size, I'm putting it on the 5.5 inch line. So I'm lining up this stitching line that says 5, and here's 5, here's a half. And I'm going to rotate this because I need to see this. Okay. So that's lined up, and I'm going to do my first cut. This is my first cut, and remember, here's why this rotating mat is nice to have. I don't have to move the ruler. Nice sharp blade makes that cut very easy. And now I have a patchwork unit. When I press the seams to the dark side, I'm just going to finger press it. I get one little dog ear. So I'm just going to cut that dog ear off. So that's the first block that you get. Then when you cut a second time, you're going to get the second block, which is going to be a completely different. And always remember what size you are cutting. I'm cutting 5.5, and the stitching line is on my stitching. The stitching line on the template is on the stitching on the pieced strips. Once that's lined up, then you can cut. I'm going to rotate this so that I can get to the other side. You see now how this rotating mat comes in handy, right? Now I have the second block. So that's block number 1, and this is block number 2. This is 1 and this is 2. And I have one dog ear to cut off here. So now that I've shown you how to cut it, what do you do with the units? You can do a lot of different things. You can mix and match. We can take 2 of the same and put them on opposite sides. And I can do that with the other ones. Let's do that. And so there goes that block so fast, just by strip piecing. We're piecing strips together and then cutting them with the strip tube ruler after we make a tube. So it's 3 strips, 2 2.5, 1 4.5. They're sewn together and then they are cut into these units. What if we decide we want to make, let's see, Let's do this one and this one. I'd have to cut one more to get this one, but we can have it going all the way around. It's up to us how we want to do it. We can change the way they go. We can do something like this. Let's see. Like this. Let's do this and that. This and that. We can break it up a little bit. We can just have fun. The more units you cut, the more you can play around on your design wall. So much fun with the strip tube ruler. What do you ladies think? Oh, hi, Glory. Yes, great. You do that with strips, not solid sides. Love this technique. Yes, it's a great technique. Easy piecing, a quick make if you need to make something fast. And you can maybe use a focus fabric for the 4.5 inch. If you have a large print, you can use a beautiful focus fabric for that. So I like those options. And I like the accuracy that the ruler provides. Okay. So that is the strip tube ruler. And it goes up to 6.5. From 1.5 to 6.5. So that's a lot of variety that you can make with this ruler. All right. And I don't know about you ladies, but often I have a lot of strips left over from scraps. Or if I cut too many strips for, say, a binding, I have some left over. I can use that. So that ends up being scraps. It's a perfect ruler for scraps. Now I want to take a little break from rulers and talk a little bit about fabric. There's this new fabric line. Well, it's relatively new. It came out last year. And it's called it's by Riley Blake, Bee Cross Stitch. And it's this beautiful fabric. I love it. Beautiful, beautiful. And it has little crosses on it. Little bitty crosses. I don't know if you can see it. There's blue. There's red. Very pretty. And here's like a peach. And here's a warm taupe-like color. Bee Cross Stitch. It's by Lori Holt. Let me show you what I use this for. Okay. I just highlighted the fabric in the carousel for those of you watching on Amazon. Bee Cross Stitch. I used it for this beautiful quilt design by a quilt along that I did, and I just love this fabric. It's just beautiful. It came out so nice. Let me give you another view of the fabric. You can see there a nice detail of those little crosses in it, like cross stitch. And if you love cross stitch, it's perfect because it goes with something that you enjoy doing. If you do enjoy cross stitch, then you're going to like this fabric. So pretty, so pretty, so pretty. And I made a quilt with it. You can get it by the yard, which is what I have. Or in the carousel on Amazon, I highlighted a sampler with fat quarters. So it comes in a rainbow of colors. So it's the perfect quilt fabric for backgrounds, for quilt blocks, or to mix and match the different rainbow colors. So I love this. And I made this quilt with it. I made this quilt. And the machine that you see there is my Juki. It's my sit-down machine. It looks like it's on a frame because it looks like it's handles, But when it is on a frame, you use those handles. I have it on a table. I sit down in front of it and I quilt. Those handles have lights on it, so I'm using it for the lights. So that stays on even when it's on a table because those handles have lights, and that's what's lighting up the area where I'm quilting. And it's a fantastic machine because it stitches beautifully. It's a simple straight stitch machine. It has a ton of space. From the needle to the back of the machine, you have 18 inches. From the table to the top of the machine, it's 10 inches. So you can quilt very large quilts with this. It's a fantastic investment. I'm so glad I got this machine because every time I sit in front of it, I know that it's going to stitch and it's going to do beautiful stitching and it's going to work. And I just love this machine. It's a Juki QBP 2200. If you're doing a lot of quilts and you are a sit-down quilter, no more wrestling with the quilt on a small machine. Although I still use a smaller machine, I love this Juki. So that is the bead cross stitch fabric by Lori Holt for Riley Blake. Love this fabric. So that was a little interlude talking about fabric to break us up from talking about all cutting rulers, but I have more for you. And we're going to look at another one, and it is the Fons and Porter Flying Geese. Do you like to stitch flying geese? Be honest. Do you like to stitch flying geese? This is the Fons and Porter Flying Geese ruler. This ruler, again, it does all the math for you, and again, you get accurate cuts so that you can have accurate piecing. As long as your 1/4 inch is accurate, you're going to get beautiful flying geese. Flying geese like this one here. Let me show you one. Flying geese like this one. I just highlighted that in the carousel for those who are watching on Amazon. And spectacular quilt. Oh, I'm glad you like it, Wilda. All right. Let's go to the overhead camera. So this is the Fons and Porter Flying Geese ruler. And it has yellow and black lines on it. It has lines on the side. You can make 1 by 2 up to 4 by 8 flying geese. I want to show you a little video that you can see how this is done. Let's take a look. Well, maybe we'll do this first. How about some inspiration? When you have a quilt with a lot of flying geese, you want a ruler like this one that's going to help you cut the fabric accurately and quickly. So there's a little inspiration there. Here is the video. All right. I'm so glad now the comments are working on Amazon. Hi. Let's see if it will work. Hopefully it will. I see your comments on Amazon. And Cassie, thank you for dropping by on Amazon. Yes, you could do that. Okay, so I can read the comments now on Amazon, but I cannot reply by writing a comment, but I will reply now that I can see them. So Cassie, I assume you're saying you use a rotating mat. I'm seeing your comment from a little while ago. I love this kind of ruler that makes this kind of patchwork so easy. Isn't that an easy way to make flying geese? I love all the little things that they've incorporated into this ruler, like this little tip here at the top, the tip there and the tip here for making the different units. When we cut off those tips, it makes it easier to piece when we don't have those tips in our units. And when we, let me go to the overhead camera. So this tip is cut off on this triangle. So this is a triangle, but this side, the tip is cut off so that we can have accuracy in our piecing. I love that. Same thing here. The tip is not there. And that helps us in our piecing. Do you like flying geese units? Do you use rulers for flying geese? This is one ruler that will help you, if you don't have one already, make accurate flying geese units. Many quilts use flying geese. All right, I need to go over here a quick minute. All right. So that's the flying geese unit. Sorry for that little hiccup there. There was someone in the comments on YouTube who wasn't participating. Had to take care of that. All right. Now, you may notice that on this template, I have these little dots. There's a lot of different ways that we can help rulers to stay in place while we cut our fabric. And in this case, I decided to use these little dots. And they are called Quilter's Grip. I just highlighted that in the carousel on Amazon. And here's some that I've had for some time. And I use them as needed. It depends on the ruler. Every ruler is a little bit different. This is just one of several techniques. Some rulers, which I'll show you soon, don't require this because they have their own built-in. But this one, I did put that in. Let me go in the overhead really quickly. You can see the dots right there. These help grip the fabric. And I just take the dots off and then I just stick them right on. They don't damage the fabric, they just hold it in place. And it's ideal. Let's see, what was mine called? When I got mine, they were called fabric grippers. And now they are called Quilter's slip and grip, I think. But the same company, same thing. I like these. All right. Let's look at some other cutting tools that we use in our sewing room. Do you have a good pair of scissors that you use only for fabric? We all need a good pair of scissors. Scissors are important to have. And I like these. These are my Gingher Shears or scissors. They're called shears, dressmaker shears. And I just highlight them in the carousel. This is the 8-inch. It comes with this protective case. And these are heavy duty. These are made well. These are for fabric only. Only for fabric. I've had these for years and they easily cut fabric. No problem. and it's just the right size. But guess what? If you're left-handed, you can get these for your left hand. They make both right-handed and left-handed scissors. Now, if you want to, say, fussy cut something and you need to go around, no problem doing that. Let me go to the overhead camera. No problem going around and cutting the fabric. Very easily, effortless. There's no strain on my hands whatsoever to be able to cut that. No strain. A good pair of sharp scissors is important to have in our... Oh, you need some scissors, Glory. Yes, these are the ones to get. I love these Gingher scissors. These are amazingly sharp, and periodically I use them. I think I've had them, over 10 years, and I've had to maybe sharpen them twice because I never use them for cardboard. I never use them for paper. Fabric only. Fabric only. And they have standed the test of time. So, Elaine, you got a good pair of shears for Christmas. Game changer. Exactly. A good pair of scissors is just like music to a sewer, right? Music to our ears. Music to our ears. I love a good pair of scissors. Look how easily I was able to cut that. That was effortless. And I'm doing it while I'm talking to you and monitoring the chat and monitoring the conversation on YouTube and the conversation on Amazon. Effortless. Yes, really good pair of scissors. Now, if you are watching on Amazon and you like what you see here, Quilt Conversations Live goes live every Wednesday, 7 p.m. I'm Geraldine Wilkins, the Living Water Quilter. You can hit that follow button. Follow my page. Go visit the page, Living Water Quilter Amazon page, for all the sewing and quilting tools that I use to help me get the results I need. I like tools that help me make sewing easy and fun. I don't want to be frustrated. I want tools that are going to help me enjoy what I like to do, and that's to sew and quilt. You're engaged. Okay. No one can use your scissors, right? They can't use it to cut open that bag or cut open that box, or we have to protect our scissors. It's so true. All right, ladies, I've been talking for a little bit. I'm going to take a little drink here. And this is my favorite. It's called the Red Copper. It's a mug that has this nice catch on it. I don't know if you can hear that. It snaps in place, and it snaps here. You have to apply pressure to actually open it, so it can't just open on its own. And on the bottom, it has this fun little suction cup, so that when you rest it on the table, it is hard to tip over. It's hard to spill. In order to pick it up, you have to pick it straight up because of the suction. All right, my favorite cup. I have this at every live stream. Okay, so we've talked about some fun rulers that make some unique and interesting quilts, patchwork pieces, and we've talked about some utility cutting tools. And now we're moving into an area of tools that we can use almost in multiple ways, in multiple quilts, because it's a familiar patchwork piece. It's like the flying geese. So now we're going to look at another tool that helps us trim half square triangles. Half square triangles are used in so many quilt blocks and in so many combinations. Sometimes we have to trim 20, 40, 50 half square triangles depending upon the quilt. And so you want a way in which to do that easily and to do it quickly. And I like it with the Bloc ruler. Have you heard of it? Bloc. Bloc has a unique groove down the center. This groove actually locks into the seam allowance. When you press the seam on a half square triangle, press the seam to one side, it creates a little ridge. And this ridge sits right in this channel. Let me show you how that works. For those watching on Amazon, it is now in the carousel. And if you're watching on YouTube and I refer to a carousel, I'm talking about a carousel of the different tools that I'm talking about that are available to get more information if you are watching on Amazon. So if you're watching on Amazon, you can see that carousel. I'm going to go to the overhead camera and show this to you again. So this is the Bloc lock. It goes from 1 inch all the way up to 6.5 inches. And this is the channel. This is the channel. It has a little dip in it. It's not flush with the rest. It's actually channeled. So that here's my half square triangle that needs to be trimmed. I've pressed it to one side. You can see here I've pressed it to one side. And now there's this little ridge right here. That's the ridge that the Bloc lock takes advantage of. It takes advantage of this ridge to help trim our blocks accurately. So I can now trim. See how now it just slides right into that. It locks in. So now even the block moves with it. If I go the other way, the block, you see how it came out? I don't know if you can see that on camera, but I can see it here. You want it to lock into that seam. And once it does, you slide it towards you to trim to the size that you need. And you would use the bottom and the left side for the size block you need. And again, I love my rotating mat for something like this. I'm making a 4.5 half square triangle. And I just need to cut a little bit. This is my 4.5 mark right here and right here. So I just need to trim just a little bit. And as long as this is locked in, I'm going to get perfect points on my half square triangle. Now all I have to do is slide it into this direction, rotate this, slide it now in this direction, and again line up now with the edge. Let me clean this off here. Line up my 4.5 here, 4.5 here, and I am ready to trim off the excess if there's any on these two sides. Move this over a little bit, stretching. So there were just the little pieces that I had to cut off. Just that little bit to get a perfect 4.5 half square triangle. Just that easy to trim. Let me demo that one more time. So again, I'm going to put this right on top. I know that I'm making a 4.5. And I make sure that the 4.5 is covering the fabric on this end. And then I cut off any excess on the top here and on the right. Just that little bit. Then I'm going to rotate my mat. And slide the ruler down and line up with the edge of the fabric, 4.5 here and 4.5 here. This is locked in place. That little piece there. Here we go. So that was just this 2 little slivers there. And now I have a perfect half square triangle. So easy. I love this trimming tool. How do you ladies trim your half square triangles? How do you trim half square triangles and get them accurate? Do you like to make them oversized and then trim them to the right size? I do. I have a challenge with making them exactly the right size just by stitching alone. So I like to make them a little bit larger and then trim them down. And so that's where this Bloc ruler comes into play. It helps me trim my half square triangles that are oversized so that I can then trim them to the right size with a ruler. And this does it quickly and easily. That's the Bloc ruler. And I love it. You can do several sizes from 1.5 to 6.5 with this one ruler. Okay, so that is another, I'd say, one of those tools that you want to have in your toolbox for quilting, because there's so many patterns that use the half square triangle. Think about the last, 5 quilts that you've quilted. Last 10, have you used the half square triangle? I know I have. I just finished one, and it had a lot of half square triangles in it. It had a lot, so this came in handy to do that, to cut. All right. You like those sizes? Yeah, it's just the right size. 6.5 seems to be a convenient size to use with a fabric cutting template. It's not too big or bulky, especially when it comes to trimming. Okay. Now let's look at this fun ruler. It's a Kaleido Ruler. Kaleido Ruler. Have you heard of it? The Kaleido Ruler. This Kaleido Ruler makes this fun quilt block. Let me show you what it looks like. It makes this quilt block. Isn't that a fun block? And all the math is in the ruler. Do you run away from patterns that have a lot of quilt math? Rulers, I'm thankful for designers who make these rulers, who say, I want to help you make that quilt, to help you make that fun quilt block, but I'll do all the math for you so that you can have fun stitching it and completing your project. Yes, yes, Elaine, you agree. Yes. So this one, now remember I talked a little bit about the different ways that we can make our rulers grip the fabric when we're cutting. This is kind of an odd-shaped ruler, perfect for making the Kaleidoscope quilt block. But instead of using those sand dots, because there's so many different numbers on this and measurements, I'm going to go to the overhead camera. All these different numbers and measurements to make the units you need for this block. are important. So you don't want to cover them up with those little grippies because you want to be able to see it. All right. So instead, I've used something called Invisigrip. On the back of the ruler, there's this vinyl. You can't see it, but I'm going to peel it up just a little bit so that you can see it. Here it is. Can you see that? Maybe. Let me turn it this way a little bit. There, maybe now you can see it. That is called Invisigrip. And that just sticks to the back of the ruler, and you make it just slightly smaller than the ruler, just slightly smaller. And that helps grip the fabric when you're cutting. Let me highlight that. So this is Invisigrip. I'm using Invisigrip on the back of this ruler so that when I cut, it's going to grip the fabric. And there are instructions. It tells you what to do, and basically you're going to cut it so that it's a little bit smaller than the ruler. So here's the Invisigrip. And it comes in a roll. And I've just about used all of mine. This is what's left. You just place the ruler on top, whatever size ruler it is. You place it on top and you trim off what you need. And then you just peel it off from this paper backing and you put it on the ruler. And that's this Invisigrip. Comes in very handy for rulers that need some additional help so that you can cut accurately. And for this type of ruler, you want to be able to cut these pieces accurately. And actually, they're very easy to cut because it's cut based on strip piecing. Strip piecing is what you use to cut this. Well, I say strip piecing when it really should be strip cutting. You cut strips to cut the units. Then you sew them together. Let me show you a video. Kaleido Ruler. This is our goal with this ruler. This one and this one is exactly the same, but this one we attach a small triangle to it. This end of the ruler to make these larger triangles. Okay, and so I would cut that, and then you just flip the ruler. Tells you right here on the ruler what size strip to make for the larger triangles, and it's on this end of the ruler. Large triangles that alternate. So you need four of one color, 4 of another color. You're going to use this side to make your smaller triangles. And you can see this, even a little picture here, what size strip and how you're going to alternate. Cut the triangles that I need. And it tells you again in the instructions what size strip to make. And I can do one here. I can cut that. So we have these two, large triangle, small triangle. We get that. We add another large triangle to this one. We get this unit. Then we take 2 of these and put them together. That creates half of the block. And you can see here is half of the block. We just have to make 1 more of these. Not hard to do if you do it step by step and you follow the instructions on the ruler. What do you think? Isn't that a fun block? I like the Kaleidoscope block. And just think about the ways that you can select fabric to get a unique look for your project. And this Kaleidoscope. Hello, Marcus. How are you? Ladies on YouTube, that's my cousin, Marcus. I'm so glad you're here. Nice to see you in the chat. You can make this quilt block so easily with this ruler, Kaleido Ruler. It makes it easy to do and easy to cut. You don't have to do the math. The math is all in the ruler. Oh, I'm glad you like the overhead camera. Awesome. Yay, glory. I'm so glad. And those watching on YouTube and Amazon Live, I'm Geraldine Wilkins, the Living Water Quilter. And this is Quilt Conversations Live, where we talk about sewing and quilting tools to help us get the results we want. Not only get the results, but to have fun while we do it. Not to be frustrated with the process, but to enjoy the process. And when we have the right cutting tools and the right templates, it makes it fun and easy. Thanks for joining me. We have a couple more rulers to go through tonight. And I'm going to show you one that makes cutting curves so easy. I know some of you are probably saying, I'll just go to my kitchen. I'll get a plate, I'll get a pan, top, and I can make a curve. But what if you want a curve to be a certain size? Let's look at this ruler. It's by Creative Grids, and it's called the Curved Corner Ruler. Curved Corner Ruler. It has a corner, and it has 3 curves with specific radius. This is a 1.5 inch radius, this is 2, and this is 3-inch radius. How would you use this ruler in a quilt? Well, let's talk a little bit more about this ruler. I'm going to go to the overhead camera. So this is a Creative Grids ruler, and it has these little grips on the back. It's incorporated in the ruler. You can use this ruler without using Invisigrip or the grippies that I had on the other rulers because it's automatically incorporated in the ruler. So these dots help grip the fabric. So again, this is our corner, and then we have a 3-inch radius, a 1.5, and a 2-inch. So I have a piece of fabric here to demonstrate for you how you might want to use this. Say this is your finished quilt top, but instead of having corners, you want to have a rounded edge. Or if you want a corner, you can also create an accurate corner by lining up this side and this side to have an accurate corner. You want this to be 90 degrees. But what if you want... Yes, it's perfect, Elaine, for rounding off quilt corners. Exactly. Do you have this ruler already? Now I'm going to put it on for a 3-inch radius. 3-inch. You see the curve on that? 3-inch. Maybe that wasn't a good fabric to pick. Let me try this side. Maybe this side is better. I don't know if the blue or which one can you see better? This blue color or the burgundy color? Or does it matter? I want you to be able to see that you can get this nice curve. I'm sorry, Elaine, what was that? Sorry, you have just said. Sorry, you have just said. Okay. I'm not sure what that means, Elaine. Let me know if I need to restate something. I want to be helpful here. That's why I'm here. So we can do a nice curve here. That's a 3-inch radius. But what if we want a smaller gentler curve. This is a 1.5 inch radius. Then this side is a 2 inch, which is in between that 3. Oh, you can see both fine. Great. Thank you for letting me know. It's hard for me to tell. So right here, yes, it does make the binding easier. You might have to do bias binding if you have a lot of curves. But when you have a curve like this, depending upon how deep the curve is, a 45 millimeter rotary cutter can cut this curve very easily, right? No problem. It can round that curve. Even on this 3 inch radius, we can round off this curve. No problem. But what if we had a really tight one? Let's go back to the 1.5, which is a little bit smaller. We can use a smaller rotary cutter on tighter curves, and that's like this one. This is a 28 millimeter. Have you considered putting one of these in your toolbox? Let me highlight that in the carousel. Excuse me for a moment, my nose itches. I don't know why, but I need to wipe it, so. This is a 28 millimeter rotary cutter. Smaller, perfect for going around tight curves like this. Now this is going through batting and 2 layers of fabric. Let's see, this blade is not as sharp as my 45. I need to change it. Okay, let me clean this up with the 45. Oops. Okay. There we go. It's kind of in an awkward spot. But here's my rounded edge. Beautifully trimmed. You could do it either with this 45 or with the 28. But make sure your blades are sharp because you're going through so many layers on a quilt sandwich. A smaller rotary blade is great for those very tight situations where you have to do a lot of maneuvering to cut in a different project. So you might need something like that. Not hard to do. Let's try another corner. But see, this one isn't trimmed. So let's trim this with my favorite ruler. This is my favorite ruler, is the Quick Trim Ruler by Creative Grids. I'll highlight that in the carousel. And I'll line that up. I think that looks good. I might have to go over a little bit more. And why is this my favorite ruler? Because it's just the right size. 12.5 inches by 3.5 inches. A lot of the patchwork that we cut falls in the 3.5 inch range. And the 12.5 inches is perfect for cutting yardage, because when we have, say, a 44 or 42 inch salvage to salvage piece of fabric, we fold it in half. Then we fold it in half again. And this ruler covers that. So you can easily make strips. If you want to make your own jelly rolls or cut strips for binding, it's easy to do. So clean blade makes nice clean cuts like that. So let's now look at a larger radius. Let's look at the 3. Before I do that, can you see these ridges here? Can you see that this is pink? I always get this wrong. Pinkered edges, and this is a straight edge. Can you see that? Those pinked edges, and that's a straight edge. Did you know you can get a rotary blade that has pinked blade like this? This is a pinkering. Am I saying that correctly? Pinkering. That will make those kind of pinkering edges, which is great when you don't want fabric to unravel. So that was a straight cut. I can also use this ruler if I want to have that kind of edge. And I'm going to highlight these blades in the carousel. You can just get these blades for your 45. This is another 45 millimeter rotary cutter. Okay, I didn't cut that. Another instance when I need to change out my blade. That's when you don't have a sharp blade, ladies. Okay. Always good to have a sharp blade. So, in any case, we want to cut a larger radius. And I think I do have some extra blades on this one. So I'm going to change out that pinkering. So I want the 3-inch radius so you can see the difference. So this is a 3-inch radius. And I'm lining up this edge of the ruler and this edge here and here. Boy, what a difference a sharp blade makes. Can you see how easily that cut because my blade is sharp? So here's a 3-inch and this is a 1.5. What a difference. But you know exactly what you want. If you want a 1.5 and you want a gentle curve, that's what you get. If you want a larger curve, 3.5, that's what you get. You can do all 4 corners exactly the same, or you can mix and match. You can mix them up. You might want 1.5 and 1.5 on the other end, and then 3 and 3 on this side. You get to decide what you want. How do you want your quilt to finish? Do you want a rounded edge or do you want a square edge? You get options with this Creative Grids corner curved ruler. Easily consistent corners. I think we should just finish off this. What do you think? Or maybe I'll save it for the next live. Well, maybe you might want to see a 2-inch because there's 3 different sizes on here. Let's look at the 2-inch radius. You might want to see what that looks like. Let's get a straight edge here. That way you can see all 3 and see the difference between the 3. Okay, so this is 1.5. This is the 2-inch. Okay. All right, sharp blades. Love sharp blades. So now we have a 3, a 2, and a 1.5 and a corner. We have all 4 of these represented on the ruler. We have a corner. We have a, which one is this? A 2, a 1.5, and a 3-inch. All on this one ruler. You get those curves and a corner. It's nice to have tools that make cutting curves accurately and consistent. Consistent size. No guesswork. There are lines on here to help us figure out where to place the ruler. You decide what size you want. Do you want a corner? That's a perfect 90 degrees. Do you want 1.5, 3, or 2-inch radius curves on your quilt? You can get that. Look at how that is. You can see the corners. You can see the different size radiuses for each one. Nice curves with this ruler. All right. Well, we have just a few more things to talk about and we are almost done. How about a fabric break? Let's talk about some fabric. And this is Cafe Facet's ombre leaves. Have you heard of ombre leaves? Ombre leaves are in this project. This is his shot cotton. Shot cotton is this one. It has like an iridescence of background with like a magenta color in the background. This is the ombre leaves here in 2 different colors and then blue here. And I'm still working on the binding. You can see my binding clips. And here is the ombre in purple. Ombre in purple, highlighted in the carousel. This is a project carrying tote. But this is the beautiful ombre fabric that I used. Ombre basically means fabric goes from light to dark. Light to dark. I think I had some here. Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. So here's the pink ombre. And you can see it light to dark. Light to dark. That's the pink. You like Cafe Fabric, Facets fabric, Elaine? Yes, beautiful, nice, colorful fabric. He designs very colorful fabric. And I like these ombre leaves. They were the perfect accent for this project. Really like it. Let's go to the overhead camera so that you can see this a little bit better. Okay, so you can see the shot cotton. It's this gray with this like magenta in the background. Can you see that magenta going through this gray? It really takes the gray to a new level. I just love that little hint of magenta. Oh, you can see it there. Isn't that beautiful? You can see it. It almost makes it like iridescent in person. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I love this fabric. It's called shot cotton, and of course there's a lot of different colors. It's highlighted in the carousel. It's shot cotton. Love this, and it worked perfect with this tote. And so there's the ombre fabric. So the combination of these ombre fabrics just was the right combination for this project. I love how I used the blue in the binding. The binding on this project is the blue ombre. Yes, isn't that nice? Thank you, Elaine, for letting me know that you can see it on camera. I appreciate that feedback. I want to be able to show you what this really looks like and have the right camera angles and good lighting. Isn't that gorgeous? So, love this ombre fabric. Have you ever used ombre fabric? You know, where it goes from light to dark fabric, or it might be a rainbow color from one part of the rainbow color to another, graduated. So pretty. So pretty. Nice little fabric break there from all the cutting tools. See if I can get this back up here. All right, there we go. It's up. Wonderful. All right, we are almost down to the last one. We have just a few more. I think, well, yeah, just 2 more templates to talk about. And thank you for hanging out with me for so long. I'm Geraldine Wilkins, the Living Water Quilter. If you're just joining us, we have been talking about patchwork rulers and cutting tools like rotary cutters and scissors, shears, dressmaker shears, and all kinds of things. How to sharpen blades if you want to sharpen your rotary blade. We've talked about templates for unique blocks like windmill blocks. So watch the replay if you missed the first part of this live show. Now we're going to look at a template for marking our quilt blocks. When we free motion quilt, sometimes we have to transfer designs to our projects before we can actually begin quilting, especially if we want a particular design. And this one is called Around the Block. Around the Block. And it's a tool by June Taylor, and basically it allows you to make different segments of a circle onto your fabric, and then you can make different patterns. So you can make a full circle, you can make a quarter circle. This is a quarter circle, and then it has increments. And the size of the ruler is 1 to 8 inches. So there's squares here that 1 inch apart, and it goes from 1 all the way to 8. And it comes with an instruction packet with some examples of different quilting patterns that you can stitch. Let's look at the overhead camera. So here's the ruler, Around the Block. And I think I'm going to take up my... No, I'll use the rotating max. I think I might need it. It might make it easier to draw. So here are this 1 inch squares I talked about. Here's the instructions with the different patterns that you can start to mark on your quilt patterns as a way to begin using the template. They show you how to do circles, how to do quarter-based designs, how to do half-based designs. And I'm going to show you very quickly how you can do a simple design in a 4-patch. Let's do a small 4-patch. So this is, whoops, I don't have enough ink there. All right. And that is roughly 8 inches. So I'm going to 8 inches. Here's 4. So I'll put this on 4 and go to 8. Okay. And then one more line. What's under the rotating mat that allows it to move? Okay, let me show that to you. That's a good question. It's actually 2 pieces. And so there's this hole here. And there's a disc. There's a disc. So it's basically allowing that disc, once it sits in place, to turn, because it's an indentation of a circle. And then that circle piece is attached to the bottom of this. And now it makes it movable. Ingenious, right? I hope that helps, Glory. Good question. Good question. So now let's look at how we can do some designs on this with this ruler. Now I can take Move this down a little bit further. This is 45-degree line, and I'm putting it right in the corner. There's a pin right here. So if you were putting this on a quilt sandwich, you can put a pin in, and then you're always going to work from the same location, right? So then you would use your marking tool that you would use for a quilt, a mechanical pencil of some kind that's removable, or a blue marker, and you would mark the lines that you need in that, and there's your marks for making a design in your 4-patch. You're doing this in a 4-patch. Then you would just rotate it to this side if you wanted to do that type of design. Say if you wanted to continue to make a circle within an 8-inch block, you would just rotate it and then continue. Right? Always lining it up right there in the center. Say you wanted to do Baptist fan. Baptist fan is a series of semicircles. You would just start the next row. So now you have half of a circle, and you have them going out from a small 1-inch all the way out. And this is a 4-patch. Now you can also do designs Let's try like this. I'm lining up right along this line right here. And I'm going to bring this line right here, because remember this is 4 inches, 1 inch, because it's an 8-inch block. So you can quickly and easily practice what designs you want on paper, like I'm doing now, to see what kind of design you want to make. Perhaps you want to change things up a little bit. I'm going to turn the template another direction so I can create kind of a serpentine look. Again, I'm lining up in the center, which would be the seam of this 4-patch, the intersection. 4 inches, lining up the horizontal and vertical lines, and then I can begin to mark. So look at that design that I just created live on camera very quickly. I was able to mark this awesome design. It's creating this swirl effect. Can you see that? Isn't that great? All done with this ruler. This is the Around the Block marking tool so that you can mark quilt patterns on your quilt projects. No measuring required because the measurements are in the ruler. You just use the grid that you see on the ruler. This is a 1-inch grid. You have your 45-degree line, and you have numeric numbers right here along both sides of the ruler. And if you want more inspiration, you just go to the instructions. The instructions has several different designs that you can practice on how to use the ruler. And once you get started, your ideas are going to start adding up. Isn't that amazing? Yes. Glory, that is awesome. I love that design. And that was just doing a quarter at a time. And just changing up the direction. And now we get this beautiful movement. How fun. Isn't that fun? I like this ruler. So fun to be able to find a ruler that can help us make interesting and unique designs on our quilt projects. Around the Block helps us to mark designs based on a circle, combining quarter sections of a circle to make different designs. Or you can just take one section, like this section, and use this only. You don't have to use all of these. You can just select one line and repeat that line to make a serpentine effect on your quilt. So I like this ruler. Okay, the last one. Can you believe it? We have one left. One left. This was a marathon. Thanks for hanging out for so long, Glory and Elaine. I think Cassie has already left us. But you can watch the replay if you enjoyed any parts of these and you want to re-watch and get a little bit more information. Always click the link. If you're on Amazon Live, I'm so glad you're watching. I'm Geraldine Wilkins, the Living Water Quilter. We're talking about patchwork and quilting rulers and cutting tools. Tools to help us make quilt blocks, patchwork pieces, things that we use in quilt patterns over and over again. We want tools to help us do them accurately and easily. The right tools make quilting and sewing fun. Why use the butt end of a screwdriver when you can use a hammer? So I say the same thing with sewing and quilting. Find the right tool for the job. You like that? That was amazing, right? Thank you for watching and hanging out. Oh, thank you, Marcus. You are awesome. I'm so glad. It's been too long since we've seen each other. We are going to look at one last ruler, and it's called a crazy or simply crazy ruler. And it's for those scrap fabrics. Do you have scraps? After you make a quilt, we buy a little bit more just in case we have an error in our quilting. We always have extra fabric. It's an investment. It has value, so we don't want to throw it away. So we end up with all these scraps. Oh, thank you. You decided to make clam chowder for dinner. That sounds good. I wish I could eat it. I'm allergic to seafood. But I'm sure it's delicious. Soup. I was just thinking about that earlier today. That soup would be great in the winter. I haven't had some good soup in a few weeks. This is the Simply Crazy ruler. This is for using your scraps. Of course, you can use yardage, but the whole idea of this is it has 5 sides that you can make a central shape, and then with this central shape, you're going to stitch fabric all the way around. And usually you use strips of scrap fabric. So let me show you this on the overhead camera. So here is the Simply Crazy template. And it has these lines because you can make 1, 2, 3, 4 different sizes of that central area, that area that you're going to possibly fussy cut some interesting design to put in the center of this crazy block. Remember, using scrap fabric, or you can use any fabric you like. But if you have some unique fabric that you want to highlight, you can do that with this template. When you're using scraps, oh, thank you, Marcus. Thank you. I appreciate that. When you're using this template, you want to take advantage of cutting multiple pieces. And so you just get some scrap fabrics like I've done here and just layer them on top, making sure that that area is going to cut. You're going to have enough fabric to cover the area of the template, which I have done ahead of time. Now I can make multiple centers from this one cutting session, but having multiple layers. So I have 1, 2, 3, I think 3 layers of fabric there. I pinned them together, and this is where my rotary mat again is going to come in handy. And I'm just going to cut each side. One side that way, like that, like that, like that, and like that. So I think I have all 4 sides. Yep, there we go. All 4 sides. That little sliver. So now I have 3 pieces ready to go to start piecing my crazy, simply crazy quilt block. Just like that. Now you can make different sizes. Remember, this has different sizes. Just now I just cut the largest size. This is the largest size. If I want to make this size smaller, all I have to do is use the lines that are on the ruler. Can you see it better here? Maybe you might be able to see it better on this one. Okay, turn this around. There we go. So you can see the lines. This would be the smallest size, then the next size up. 1, 2, 3, 4 sizes, this one being the smallest. So this is the smallest size right here. And this outer edge is the biggest size, and that's the size that I just cut. But say we want to make it smaller. All I have to do is shift the template to the size that I want. Excuse me for a moment. So here is how we do that. So this is just like that. I just move this to the next size. I put the edge of the fabric along the next size. So this is size, the next largest size. Then I move it to the next one if I want that size, or to the smallest size. So that's the smallest. I just follow these edges, and now I cut off this excess to get the smaller size. It's that easy to get any size that you want. You just shift the template to the size. You cut this first, then shift the template to the size that you want. If that's the window size that you want for that central part of the block, now you just cut off this excess. Let's do that. So now I have the next size. Just that easy. Okay, so how about the sewing? You want to see what happens when we sew, right? Here's what happens. We have to do one piece at a time. So here's the block in the center. Remember, I just cut this one. This is what I cut, right? And I sewn on one piece. This is the template. Just like that. Oops, let me move this. And so we sew on a scrap piece of fabric. It doesn't matter how wide this is. It can be any size that you want, and you can start anywhere you want. You do get a different look depending upon which side you start. So always test. So here's the first piece. Then we add the second one. Remember, I'll just put it right on top. So here's the second one, right on top. Okay. Then we have another one. So you just put a whole bunch of scrap fabric by your machine and you just start piecing one at a time. And you keep going around. Here's the next one. See how this can become a central part for some fussy cutting, for some special fabric, a rose, a flower of some kind, or a cat, or anything that you want. Or you can put words here. It's up to you. You can put some embroidery here. You can use this template to cut the shape with embroidery and then have that as the central part. That's up to you. Then the last round. Then you would just keep going until you get the size block that you want. Remember, it's scraps. You can make this a 5-inch block, a 6.5-inch block, 7.5, 8.5, any size that you want. Now, of course, you want it to be bigger than this central piece of the Simply Crazy quilt block template, but that is how you get to your block. Just going around and around one at a time. So you start off by cutting the shape that you want of the 4 different sizes. You add your first strip. You add a second strip covering that first one. Then you add the next strip. 1, 2, and 3. And you trim off the excess. Then you add the next one. Add the next one. Always stitching with a 1/4 inch until you go all the way around. This is the last one. And then you would trim and add the next one here, here, and here until you reach the size. Make it larger than the size that you want to make. If you want to make an 8-inch block, you want it to be 8.5 inches. So that means you want all of this to go beyond at least 9 inches so that you can trim it. 9 inches from top to bottom and left to right. You decide what size block you want to make. Simply Crazy. Perfect for scrap quilts. Easy to make and fussy cut with the fabric that you like and to use up your scraps one piece or strip at a time. I think that's it for us tonight. I think we've covered everything in the carousel. Those who are in Amazon watching live, thank you for joining me. We have been looking at patchwork piecing tools and cutting tools. I think we've covered about everything. Let me see, did I show you all the videos I wanted to show you tonight? I think I did. You can visit my Amazon shop at tools.livingwaterquilter.live. I have curated lists of all the tools that I use, sewing and cutting and quilting, and machines like this Juki here for quilting, listed in special curated lists just for you. Let's make quilting fun and easy. Let's not be frustrated by not having the right tool. We need the right tools. We need tools. Like for those of you who've been watching, I've used 2 different rotary cutters tonight. This one was very sharp, straight blade. This one I need to replace. I tried to cut with it and it was too dull. And you saw that live. If you need to replace a blade, replace a blade. And you can get those easily on Amazon. And I have some extras of different sizes, but I don't have an extra one of this other pink ring. I don't think I have one. Otherwise, I'd show you how to change a blade. I think I showed that to you. Glory, are you still here? Did I show you how to change a blade? I think I did. I can't remember now. Or Elaine, if you're still watching. Thank you for whoever's watching. If you want to see that demo on how to change a rotary blade, if you missed that, I'll be happy to play that for you. They're not hard to change, and it's important to have a sharp blade. It's safer to have a sharp blade. Great. I'm so glad that you're learning so much. The right tools are so important, Glory. And I like to use tools that I know. I've had this for years. These are good products. And these are investments. If you are an avid quilter and sewer like I am, you want tools that are going to last. Yep, I think I covered everything. That's it. I'm going to look one more time in the carousel. Okay, I did show the blade good. How to change the rotary blade. All right. I think that is it, everyone. Thank you for being here. I've enjoyed our time together every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Quilt Conversations Live with me, Geraldine Wilkins, the Living Water Quilter. I will see you next Wednesday here on Amazon Live. And those who are watching from YouTube, I'll see you on Friday. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy the rest of the week.